let me stick with you for a sec, Zach. You're normally on either like Disney stuff or cartoon Disney stuff, and here you are on a gory, violent, somewhat comedic horror movie review. Why? Why are you here, Zach?
Well, number one, to surprise you, of course, but also because I'm not a horror guy. If I want to be scared, I'll watch the news. But other than that, I don't know how I got into Final Destination, but I'm not really into like when I like horror. I usually like more psychological horror, and I feel like in the
just keep going.
And basically, I just really I found out it's like my friend was like, dude, this whole series is like gory Looney Tunes. Like everyone dies in like really, really like complex mousetrappy kind. I'm like, okay, I gotta check it out. And then I was like, you know what? I think I had my like, wisdom teeth out, so I think I forget what year it was. Probably I just binged all the movies. And I was just like, dude, this is good because I feel like a lot of horror movies at the time were trying to be all like, it's gross. This is what people's insides look like outside.
And throw it right in the screen.
Like that. And like a clown thing. Like, you know.
Yes, no, I got the imagery.
Okay. You know when you go to the circus. But it was I just really like them, and I'm like, I can't wait for another 15 years till they make a new one, and I didn't have to wait that long because it was only 14 years. So, so that's why. I saw you smile, Robert. I saw that. But yeah.
All right. So, Mick, you are a horror person, and just as an aside, the brief preview of Thursday, I did finally watch Control Freak today. I have words, but you are a big horror nut. Where does Final Destination rank for you in your fandom of horror, and have you seen the previous 5?
I'll start with I have seen all of them. I am a big fan of gore. I am what you call the gore whore. So anything that has that shock value, I want to see people get murdered in very interesting ways. Like today, I decided to sport my House 1,000 Corpses shirt.
Nice.
I only see 2 corpses, but okay.
Oh my god. It's gonna be a long night.
I mean, Final Destination was never really on my like top 5, but like I still enjoy them.
Remember when Robert Winfree? Remember when we did the Long Road to Ruin? And okay, I can't do the voice anymore. And we reviewed Final Destination because it was on the short list of horror movies I could actually tolerate.
I remember Benjamin Cologne's nice title card for that, where he references Mousetrap, the game. It's actually really good.
So, yeah, that Long Road to Ruin was typically me and Sean Comer, but that was one of the ones where Sean had a night off or a hiatus or whatever. So Robert stepped in, and I think it was like every October I wanted to focus on a horror franchise. So that year I picked Final Destination. And, yeah, I had heard about, this will be the final thing before we go into the plot. I had heard about the log scene. The highway log scene from Final Destination 2, such to the point that when my son wanted to watch one of the Final Destination movies so that he could feel prepared for Bloodlines, I was like, there's 2. No need. I showed him, I went straight to 2. I was like, there's no reason to see 1, and there's no reason to see the rest of them. If you need to see one movie, see 2. It's the best. And his reaction to 2 was, this isn't really scary. And the way it's been talked about, I expected more out of the log scene, but had I seen it cold with no explanation, that is a very fun scene to watch, Robert. The way that it is shot, we don't need to go into a big long thing about it, but I think if there's one thing that made Final Destination sort of set its place in the zeitgeist, it's the way in which the freneticness of that log highway multiple death scene. It is like the ECW opening medley, which Rob gets the reference and the other 2 completely lost. But for the rest of the wrestling fans out there, I definitely got to laugh.
Hey, Mark. How long ago did ECW go under?
Why? Why must you be this way?
So you can feel old.
Oh, that's fair. No, that's fine. I was just like I thought you were telling me like shaming me into not making that reference, and I'm like, why?
No.
For the other 50-year-olds watching this who watch wrestling, they just got a laugh out of that. I'll tell you about the ECW medley later, Mick. Go ahead.
Yeah. You're referencing something that's been gone for like I can't quite say 40.
Well,
but
first the dinosaurs came, but then they turned into oil.
Well, the problem with the dinosaurs was they trusted Paul Heyman with their planetary management, and that just didn't go well.
All the dinosaurs are on the moon.
Your thoughts on the log scene, sir?
Yeah, you're right. The first Final Destination, just to do a little bit of history real briefly. It's written by a couple of people who did a lot of work on the X-Files. And that comes across pretty well because there's a really wicked sense of humor to a lot of the Final Destination stuff, especially the first couple anyway. And yeah, they build these just like horrible Rube Goldberg machines of just the worst accidents you could imagine. And it's tied together with an aesthetic that got played a lot around this time. Again, we're talking like late 90s to early 2000s. This is when you get, Final Destination, The Faculty, I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Mm-hmm.
Scream.
Another one we're going to have to revisit this summer because they're coming out with another I Know You Did Last Summer. But please continue.
Yep.
Yeah. They all tend to do the same thing. Like I'm going to date myself horribly, but if you were walking down the aisles of the movie rental place, all these kinds of movies had the same cover. You had all the teens in like a V going backwards, and then
like they were migrating south for the winter.
Yeah, you have their faces like set going back, and then you have like if it's a 2-word title, you have 1 and 1. And they all had this. They all had this the same way like the Marvel movies all have the same poster nowadays, with very few exceptions. Like the vast majority of them are like copy paste into a format. These all had that same format, and again for visual. So if you walked by one of those, you knew exactly what you were getting there. But one gets a little bit of like cult following because it's kind of funny. Again, it's got a sense of humor about it. 2, like part of that big opening highway crash is in the trailer.
Yeah.
Like enough to let you know this is what you're going to see. And then when you watch,
like watching the White House blow up on Independence Day.
Yeah.
That was in the trailer. Everyone was like, that's what we're going for. I don't give a shit what else happens in this movie. That's what I want to see.
It was lots of fun.
Yes.
They were also good enough to not show the entire thing, but enough to let you know, like, this is our big thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, there's a running gag around this that one scene, if you watched that in theaters at the time, you don't drive behind a lumber truck anymore.
Unless you're promoting the 6th movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which we'll get to some of my issues with that about 6 later, but then it just kind of perpetuates under its own momentum a little bit after 2.
Yeah.
More so than like a lot of just really great ideas. With the exception of 5. 5 has a genuinely nice twist ending.
I was going to say, one of the commenters here, I'm guessing it's a friend of Zach's, RetroCat1930, he was saying that it's kind of like Saw, and I said, yeah, that's another one that was reviewed on here through Long Road to Ruin, and the thing about the parallel between Saw, and I'm going to get Zach and Mick to weigh in on this, and then we're going into the plot synopsis, is the Purge 2, to a certain degree, though less so, is that it stops being about a story as such and more of, well, what are we going to do this time? What bigger trap? What bigger purge? What bigger, death scene can we do to top the last one? It becomes like Slayer trying to write a new album. Like, well, what are we going to do to differentiate ourselves from the last album? Nothing. Everyone wants the same Slayer album for decades.
Because we're Slayer, for God's sake.
Slayer!
We don't talk to our audience.
So much so that we break up, and then...
Yes. Zach, did you want to weigh in here? You have anything you want to add? And then Mick?
Yeah, just as Final Destination, just as a series, I like the premise. It's flawed, but I do like it. It's the slasher movie without the slasher. It's I feel like because it's more like a fourth.
Almost, I was gonna say it's almost a parallel in that sense to like a Nightmare on Elm Street, where how do you defeat this thing that isn't, it doesn't bleed. We can't kill it.
No,
You don't know what the rules are to this thing yet.
Yeah, it's pretty much like you can't stop it because let's say I'm at Vegas, let's say I'm blowing all my money. It's like I could put all on these stupid teenagers or death. I'm betting all my money on death because it's pretty much like it's
a minus 5,000 in the sports book.
Yeah, so basically it's
and
not.
Yet it still fails on one occasion.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is basically it was basically what you're doing is they're not trying to like defeat death. Maybe sometimes they are, but they're trying to like see how long they can keep going.
Yeah.
But when I say it's flawed, it's like death is like, I seem to have messed up. Maybe instead of these, I could go about this one or two ways. I can give all these stupid teenagers massive heart attacks instantaneously, or I could make these really clever Rube Goldberg mousetrap kind of ways they can die. Well, I'm pretty dumb, so I will go with the second option.
I love the fact, Mick, that death is portrayed in these movies as a performance artist.
Yes.
Well, a performance artist, and there's two things about this. One, again, is the sense of humor that plays into a lot of this. It's a really wicked sense of humor, but it's there. And again, the earlier ones are written by guys who did a lot of X-Files work, and X-Files has a wonderful sense of humor. So you get that comes through, but it's a little bit like, oh, you screwed with my plan. I could kill you in your sleep. Or you get to
on your head.
Death is a petty bitch. Mick, take the last word here, and then we'll move on.
I liked that comment about the parallels between Saw and that, because I never thought about it, but it does. I do see the parallel there. Saw is definitely my top 3, so I understand that it gets really repetitive with movies like these, trying to be the most extreme movie.
For more on that, listen to Mark and I review the Saw movies.
I've never seen Saw.
What?
I have a deep love for the first one.
Yeah, you have to appreciate what they did for the first one.
Then, after the first 3, it gets dicey.